United Kingdom today is on average per person 40% poorer than the average person in the United States. The poorest state in America is Mississippi. If the UK was a member of the United States, we would be poorer than Mississippi. So what the hell are we all doing here? Get out!
You know that you're talking to someone from Alabama, right? Listen, there's a saying here. Thank God we're not Mississippi, but that's just because we're only 1 point ahead of them in just about everything.
Peeing is like reading a good book. Once you get started, you just can't stop.
They keep telling us the UK economy is broken. No, it's not broken. It's working exactly how they designed it. Low wages, high taxes, insane rents, record profits for the same handful of corporations. This isn't a coincidence, it's a model. Every year, ordinary people get poorer, and every year the same elite groups get richer. You think that's an accident? You think they don't know what they're doing? If the system really worked for us, we wouldn't need food banks in the world's 6th largest economy. We wouldn't be choosing between heating and eating. This is a transfer of wealth disguised as economic policy. The economy isn't failing, it's succeeding. For the people it was built for. Everyone else. You're just paying the price.
Controversial take again. I honestly think there are few worse countries than the UK in which to be a parent and raise your child or children. I think it's got to be one of the worst countries to raise a family. On multiple fronts, from the very cold weather and poor daylight hours, especially in winter, so planning everything is an absolute nightmare. It's exceptionally lonely being a parent in the UK, even if you have a supportive partner, because of the hours that people are expected to work and the output that goes out into just sustaining a pretty average lifestyle, I would say, for most people. So it's so difficult to really enjoy the experience of having a family. There's no community support for most people unless they have healthy, viable, extended family members who are willing to actually help, and that is rare. There's no real sort of solidarity among other mums and parents, because everybody's just trying so damn hard to make a living. Healthcare is almost non-existent. GPs don't do anything anymore. You're lucky if you get a telephone consultation. My daughter wasn't well on the weekend. We got to A&E and they said they were so inundated, even in pediatrics, and they didn't have enough doctors, that because they didn't think she was so bad, they couldn't see her.
Welcome to Blighty Blighted, your daily reminder that Britain now compares itself to places it used to feel sorry for. Here's a thought that would have sounded mad years ago. Britain is starting to look poorer than parts of America everyone used to joke about. Yes, that America. States like Mississippi. Now I'm not here with charts and fancy graphs. I'm here with reality. Lower wages, higher living costs, weaker safety nets, and a public told it's doing just fine while quietly falling behind. When people working full-time can't afford heat, food, or a future, You don't need statistics. You need a mirror. And pensions? Oh, don't get me started. Britain has somehow managed to become one of the worst places in Europe to grow old if you're relying on the state. Tiny payouts, constant rule changes, promises that shrink faster than the money itself. You spend your whole life paying in, and when it's time to get something back, they act like you're asking for a favor. Across much of Europe, pensions actually resemble support. Here, they resemble an apology. Just enough to survive, not enough to live. Meanwhile, we're told we're a rich country. Aye, rich in history, slogans and excuses. Because for ordinary people, Britain feels skint, properly skint.
And there's a big irony to me looking at the people who serve in our hospitals as nurses, doctors, assistants, porters. Most of them are foreign immigrants, and they're caring for an elderly population, native, if you like, who probably would block them coming into the country. I just find it so ironic. Am I the only person that thinks this way? Please tell me.
Pretty much everybody in the UK, and pretty much everybody who's visited the UK recently, has the sense that nothing's working. Compare the UK to the US, and a middle-income American, their equivalent person in the UK is really badly off. Maybe 30%, 40% less rich, much less productive, much less output in terms of how many days they work and how much they produce. It's not crazy at all to say I'd rather have more time with my kids than more time, more money and more time at work. But the UK doesn't actually do that. Americans could stop working at the end of September, on the 22nd of September, and they'd still earn more money than the UK, than Britain's working for the whole year.
The UK's poorest earners are now worse off than low earners in Slovenia and Malta. New research shows the lowest 10% of earners in the UK are poorer than their equivalents in a number of European countries. We are £3,000 a year worse off than Germany's poorest and £1,500 worse off than France's. Why? Stagnant wages and weak economic growth for almost 20 years.
Can someone please explain to me why in the UK right now, like in the job system, that when you're applying for jobs, they are expecting you to have all these NASA degrees, but they're only willing to pay you like a Tesco part-time, like, shelf stacker? How does that work? As a prime example, I was just about to apply for this job, a trainee position job, because I thought, well, I've got no knowledge. I've only got really my degree, what I've done, which is basically level 3, like, college. And they were like, you must have a BA honours, you must have this, 5 years experience. And I was like, anyone who's got that is not going to go for your £22,000 a year job. They're not going to go for it. How are you meant to get experience, especially even if you're going to do a trainee position, if they don't give you an opportunity, but you're expecting to have experience, come to this job so you don't have to train them and pay them next to fuck all.
Oh my goodness, did you know the salary for an MP is £93,000? This is the basic annual salary of an MP. I was shocked to find out this. I'm Brooklyn, diversity inclusion consultant and coach. I'll add a link in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well said, Jack. It's just insane, isn't it? It is absolutely insane. And what is, I think, is an absolute disgrace is that benefit system is there for a reason. It's not bad to be on benefits. They say hard-working people as a way to say lazy benefit claimants without saying it. It's very clever. There's a big implication. I don't know how they get away with it. How they say hard-working people all the time to imply people on benefits lazy. Now, they'll deny that, but that's part of the game. That's part of the framing. There's no way you can prove that they mean that, and they know that. But also, they will also be getting a lot of people on the side by saying that, you're all hardworking and these people are lazy. But that benefit system is there because the work environment does not suit everybody, suit everybody's needs, and it's nothing to do with being immoral at all. So it's a corrupt message.
So some of you are going to find the following upsetting, others are going to be cheering. Let's have a look at the average salary by age in the UK using figures from the Office for National Statistics. These are the median full-time salaries. So half the people are going to earn more, half of you are going to earn less. If you're in your 20s, the average is about 28,500. If you're in your 30s, that jumps to 35,000. 40s, now that's where salaries peak, around 38,200. In your 50s, It stays strong at 37,100, but by your 60s it usually starts to dip again. Surprised? A lot of people are either way ahead or seriously underpaid, and most don't even realise it. But here's the thing, these are just averages. Your salary doesn't define your future wealth. What you do with it does. How you manage, save and invest it does. So are you being paid enough? Do you want to know how to make your money work harder? I've got tools and tips in my newsletter and in the link in my bio. Head there for more.
Is this yet another lie about to be broken, or yet another promise, rather, about to be broken? And is this the biggest whopper yet? So, according to the press and according to leaks, it seems increasingly that there may be a chance, or increasingly likely, that old Rachel Reeves, Lego head herself, is going to raise income tax in the budget in a month's time. Income tax for everyone. Possibly a penny, maybe 2 penny on the pound for every single person, allegedly. It is only allegedly. If that's true, if that turns out to be true, then that breaks every promise they've made. Literally 1 year ago, in the budget this time last year, Rachel Reeves raised taxes. And during that statement, she said, "Read my lips, I won't be coming back for more. This is it, we're not going any further. That's the end of the tax rises." That's what she said a year ago. And now here she is, coming back for a lot more. Not only that, but in the Labour Party manifesto and in the run-up to the previous election, Keir Starmer and every single senior minister kept trumpeting the same line. We will not be raising taxes on the working person. And then since then, they've raised loads of taxes, but their get-out-of-jail-free card was, yes, but those taxes don't apply to the working person. They apply to businesses, or to the wealthy, or to blah, or to this, or to that, or to this. And they wriggled and wriggled and wriggled and found ways to try and escape the noose. If they put income tax up, whether it's by a penny, 2 pence, or 10 pence, it doesn't make any difference. That will be a tax rise on the working person. They will have broken their promise again. And it's an absolute whopper because it will apply to every single working person in the country. They can't be trusted. You can't believe a single word they say. They are liars. There's no other way to describe them. Liars, charlatans, fakes, frauds. They will claim, yeah, but the accounts are in a bad shape. The budget's not looking too good. Our economy's not doing very well. Well, you've had 15 months to do something about that. And rather than steadying the ship, you've made it worse. You've left it with a load of holes below the waterline. The ship is sinking. The economy is sinking. And you can't keep saying time after time after time, 14 years of Tory rule. That might have held some water, I suppose, for the first 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, maybe even a year. But we're getting on for 18 months in. By the time this budget's delivered, it will be nearly 18 months. You can't keep saying it's the previous lot's fault. It's your fault, and you lied. So will income tax rise? I don't know. It's being alleged. It's being floated. I think what tends to happen in government is they sort of leak something, they put it out there, and they just see what the reaction is. They see how the press reacts, see what the media say, and see what the public reaction is. And they've been doing that with all sorts of potential tax rises, and now this is the latest one. So what will your thoughts be if your income tax goes up for everyone? Are you going to be happy with that? Are you going to let them get away with lying to you yet again? Or are you going to do something about it?
The poorest state in America is now wealthier than the UK. Mississippi, if you look at why, Mississippi, I mean, I keep saying it in a certain way because when you're out there, people can't believe that Mississippi is wealthier than Britain. But if you understand what Mississippi is to the Americans, it's a pretty remarkable stat. But Mississippi has become wealthier than Britain per capita because one of the reasons is their approach to employment regulations. So it's like, we can preach that, this employment rights bill is going to make everything better for everyone and it's going to improve rights. But the reality is it's going to result in a lot less job creation, a lot less wage growth, right? And a lot less economic opportunity. Is completely the opposite of the direction that we want to be going in if we want to be creating wealth. The American dream, when you go out there, it's just very alive and kicking. It's not political. It's completely apolitical. It's embraced by absolutely everyone. Doesn't matter what your role is in society, whether you're an entrepreneur yourself or whether you work for a business, everyone has the mentality that they are an entrepreneur. They treat themselves like a business. They have their own business plan of where they want to go in life, and it's so clear. Whereas I think if you come over here and you go around Westminster or Whitehall, it's like, who's talking about the British dream? Like, is there even a British dream? I don't know what the British dream is anymore. That hasn't always been the case, and again, we've had political parties of all stripes and colours, some more pro-business than others, but it doesn't feel like the British dream is a priority for the government. It's certainly not a priority for this government. In the same way, it's an absolute priority for every single American government, governor, mayor, maybe not the new mayor of New York, but any other governing entity at the moment. It's an absolute priority for them, to the point where it's completely off the cards to even touch it.
5 reasons why the UK will be poorer than Poland by 2030.
I'm not comfortable with a trajectory that will soon see Britain overtaken by Poland.
This remark was made by Labour leader Keir Starmer. Some Brits mocked him, others were shocked. To many British, Poland is still a poor post-communist country, but Starmer may have been right. Here's why. 1. Britain is too expensive. Inflation is a problem for any country, but the cost of living adds another dimension. The UK has some of the highest energy prices. As they go up, household budgets are stretched. The government has capped energy bills, but the average retail price is still more than twice as high as last year's. This will have a long-lasting effect on the economy. 2. Higher taxes scare off investors. Liz Truss introduced a flurry of tax cuts during her short tenure, but they were later found to be unfunded, so they were reversed, adding to the chaos. By 2027, tax as share of GDP will reach the highest level since World War II. This dampens the consumer spending power. It also halts business investments, creating a vicious cycle. 3. Britain doesn't have enough workers. This is one of the most ironic comparisons. When Poland joined the EU, millions of Poles sought work in the UK. The Polish plumber has become a British stereotype. But since 2017, more Poles have left than arrived. Poland has gone a long way. Britain, on the other hand, has found itself in a labor crisis. Since the pandemic, employment has been on the decline. It's not simply unemployment. The labor shortages are caused by economic inactivity. This term refers to people who aren't looking for a job. Some have chosen early retirement. Today, there are 3 million economically inactive Brits. Brexit has further exacerbated the problem. It's now more difficult for Europeans to obtain work permits. There's an estimated shortfall of more than 300,000 workers. 4. The Bank of England is raising interest rates. Since late 2021, there have been 11 interest rate hikes. The base rate is expected to be 6% by the end of 2023. That's the highest level since the late 20th century. Higher cost of borrowing adds to the pressure on households and businesses. It means less spending for both consumers and companies. It means refinancing mortgage loans. Meanwhile, the Consumer Prices Index remains flat. Core inflation is slowly growing and has reached its highest level since 1992. 5. Britain's stagnation extends to every possible measure. The UK has the smallest welfare state of any developed country. Yes, that includes the United States. This despite decades of government intervention. Young Brits will pay far more in tax than they'll ever receive back in benefits. The housing crisis is unprecedented in British history. Young people are excluded from home ownership. Public services are under pressure, especially health care. Britain is the only country in Europe with declining life expectancy. The UK is also running a large trade deficit. The trajectory is unsustainable. Britain is seeing an increase in liabilities to the rest of the world. It can't thrive without Emirati money or Polish plumbers. The British economy is expected to shrink by 0.6% in 2023. Poland is showing a growth rate of 3.6%. It's pretty clear we'll be on top in 2030.
Good morning. I'm out here doing my 3.5 miles before I go lift weights. And I was doing some thinking. One of the biggest scams of humanity has to be paper money. It's nothing more than a piece of paper. And you know what gives it its value? Contrary to what all they say to you, is human labor and time. Then they created debt to make that labor and time controlled by a few. It's nothing but slavery. And then when you start to think a little too much, They dumb down the education system, where when you do have a little time to think, you can't differentiate between the bullshit and the facts on the news and on the internet. And then, to make it even worse, they pay somebody $300 million a year to put a ball in a goal. It's the Roman Coliseum in 2023. And people are so enamored and so lost in this system that they can't step out of it and see what's going on all around them. It's nothing more than modern day slavery upgraded. Slavery didn't go anywhere. Slavery just changed forms. And people will not wake up and see the facts. We'd rather be racist, homophobic, any other way that we can distract our mind from the fact that the 1% are shoving a big red, white, and blue dick up our ass every day. Hope y'all have a great morning.
I don't think people realize how poor the UK really is. And I saw this chart the other day in the Financial Times, which is Britain's largest financial newspaper, that really paints the picture. This is looking at GDP per capita already adjusted for purchasing power, and it compares the UK, Germany, Netherlands, and the US. Now, the blue line is the national average GDP per capita. So you can see between Britain, Germany, the Netherlands, and the US, the UK is already the poorest of the group at a national income around $45,000 per capita compared to the US, which is around $65,000 per capita. That's already a pretty large gap. Now, the Financial Times asked the question of what would happen if you took the most productive city away from that country. So in the US, that's San Francisco, the Netherlands, that's Amsterdam, Germany, it's Munich, and the UK, it's very obviously London. And the differences are stark. So you can see over here in the US, if you take away San Francisco, the US's average income adjusted for purchasing power drops slightly. And you obviously have Mississippi here at the bottom. And I know it seems weird to compare a city to a full state, but San Francisco, the metro area, actually has more people than the state of Mississippi, so I'm fine with that analysis. The Netherlands, it's a larger drop. Germany, there's pretty much no difference. Munich is substantially wealthier than a lot of other cities, but it doesn't have a large share of Germany's population compared to some of these other places. And then you have the UK. If you took away London, which is by far the largest population hub in the UK, the average person in Britain is poorer than the average person in Mississippi. This says a few things. One, the UK is way too concentrated in one geographic area. London is really the only productive part of Britain on a global scale. You think about cities like Manchester, Liverpool, they just don't compete. I'm not an expert on British economics, but a lot of this is similar to what you see in like Rust Belt cities. And these are former manufacturing towns that just don't have the productivity anymore. It's really concerning, and this is when you see, trends like Brexit, where there was a vote where London was heavily in favor of staying with the EU, but the rest of the UK voted against staying in the EU and they wanted to leave. There's a huge mapping to the economic outcomes and realities all these people are living. To be clear, things can change. This is from an economics paper comparing the USSR, Germany, France, and the UK. And you can see in the 1960s and 70s, the UK actually did fall behind and was pretty much at parity with the Soviet Union. And then after the 1970s, it caught back up to its German and French peers. One thing I do find funny though is that in British press, they have this really bad, thought of Mississippi. And so a lot of them wrote, are we as poor as Mississippi? And an American journalist wrote, is Mississippi really as poor as Britain? Which I love. So while I do love poking fun at the Brits, we do need our allies to be strong and healthy and have a great economy. And so I do hope that they can turn it around.
So there was a man who had worked hard all of his life and saved all of his money. He was real tight when it came to his money. He loved money more than just about anything. And just before he died, he said to his wife, "Now listen, when I die, I want you to take all my money and put it in the coffin with me. I want to take all my money to the afterlife." So he got his wife to promise him with all her heart that when he died, she would put all the money in the coffin with him. Well, one day he died. He was stretched out in the casket. The wife was sitting there in black next to their best friend. When they finished the ceremony, just before the undertakers got ready to close the casket, the wife said, Wait a minute. She had a shoebox with her. She came over with the box and placed it in the casket. Then the undertakers locked the casket and rolled it away. Her friend said, I hope you weren't crazy enough to put all that money in there with that stingy old man. She said, yes, I promised. I'm a good Christian. I can't lie. I told him that I was going to put that money in that casket with him. You mean to tell me that you put every cent of his money in that casket with him? She asked. I sure did, said the wife. I got it all together, put it into my account, and I wrote him a check.
Check this out. This is a migrant hotel.
Oh, wow. Oh, what a find. What a find, guys. Look at this baby food. All thrown out. Brand new as well. Paid for by the Home Office. Look at this. All been wasted. I'm guessing, is it out of date? Let's have a look.
Why would there be a skip filled with baby food at a migrant hotel in the UK?
There you go, look. Expires 15 for the first 26. It's all just gone out of date. Just throwing it all. Wow. Got all these mattresses as well. That's barbaric.
Barbaric. That was a skip full of unopened baby formula found, you know, at the perimeters of a migrant hotel in the UK. Thousands of pounds worth. Brand new. Thrown away because it wasn't getting used. Now, listen. Do you know what really sickens me about this situation? Like I said, we have got hundreds of thousands of children living in this country without food, completely in food poverty, you know. Parents are literally skipping meals. Families are relying on food banks. Homeless mothers with babies. And yet, baby food is literally being binned on a mass scale. So, you know, let's just ask the question that no one wants to answer. Why is there even baby formula being thrown away at all? You know, if there are babies in these hotels, if they're genuinely asylum seekers and people running away from third world wars, then why is the food that's meant to be for them ending up in the skips? You know, and if there aren't any babies in these hotels, then why is baby formula being ordered with taxpayers' money in the first place? Is it to cover up the fact that there might be families there, but there actually isn't? Either way, something is seriously wrong right now, and it definitely needs to be spoken about. But obviously, for the sense of reasons, this was all just for entertainment, and I'm as fictional as a dinosaur, baby.
Can we honestly just talk about the homelessness in the UK? As we all know, the UK is just getting tougher, and harder to live in, and we're all just surviving. It's like the working class people are just getting pushed aside, and all the multimillionaires and all the billionaires, all the millionaires are just like living life like nothing's happening. Now, I am so grateful that I have a roof over my head. I might not have much. I might not have, you know, a mansion, Lamborghini, a big massive TV. But at the end of the day, all of that shit doesn't matter to me. I just want a peace of mind, be around good people, and at least have a roof over my head. Because, girl, things are getting real bad here in the UK. Like, I'm not lying to you. If you have a flat, a house, or whatever roof you're living under, just be grateful you've got something over your head, because shit is getting real in the UK. Best believe it.
Let's talk money. I've just Googled ground workers' wages in the UK, just to see how close it is, and just to see what it comes up with. So according to Google, a ground worker's day rate in the UK generally falls between £130 to £220 a day. Skilled workers earning more, but it varies widely from 100 for basic labour up to 300 plus for sole traders or specialist roles depending on experience. Location, London is higher. And whether employed or self-employed, expect 140 to 190 for average employed rates, while experienced sole traders can command 220 to 300 pounds plus. Okay. So, whereabouts in the country are you? Is Google thereabouts? Is it right? Now, I think it's laid out a massive range there. I don't know too many employed ground workers, and if you are employed, how does that stack up compared to self-employed ground workers. Also, if you're a landscaper, you're including this as well, because there is a big overlap between ground workers and landscaping. It's not the same, but they definitely overlap. So comment below, let me know whereabouts in the country you are. Don't just say how much you're earning if you don't want. Just say like a range, like roughly what it is for employed, self-employed, digger drivers, dumper drivers, labourers, how much experience you've got. Let me know. I'm interested.
Citizens of the United Kingdom, this is the most important video you are going to see. This is the straw that breaks the camel's back. I couldn't find this poor woman's video, so I've had to screen record it from Bruce Unfiltered. Go and follow him and the Great British National Protest and Aaron Swan Adventures and Hannah's World and all of the patriots that you've been following. But this video is the fucking final straw, and I don't care if this gets taken down. This is the UK in 2025. Tag Elon Musk, tag Donald Trump. This country is fucking finished.
To stay, and we've run out of funds to stay in the travel lodge, and I'm so cold and it's wet and I can't do a tent.
Imagine being born here in the UK, work here, raise your kids here, and ending up sleeping in a tent outside your own council offices while the government books out hotels for people who aren't even citizens. Well, that's the reality for James and Carrie Flower in Maidenhead. Watch this.
I can't sleep in a tent anymore. And they literally told us that they...
I know that growing up today can be tough. By the way, just bear with me on this video. Wait till the end. We're investing in new clubs, music, sport, real world opportunities to help young people build confidence and find their spark. He's tweeting again, people. And the hypocrisy of this is outrageous. Because in March 2025, there were 4.5 million children living in poverty in the UK, which is 31% of all children. A rise of 100,000 from the previous year. Then they categorise it where the most poverty is. I don't know why they need to do that, by the way, because this is the biggie. 31% of children. That is outrageous. And the UK has seen an increase in child poverty due to the rising cost of living, with 3.1 million children in deep poverty. For me, this isn't spoken about enough. And this is a reason why people are not having kids anymore. That's why you're getting your declining birth rates, because it is so expensive to live. Food, energy bills, even getting on the property ladder, even trying to find a house to rent. Landlords slapping rent prices up. And it's just people can't do it. I don't understand how people who are single can do it. Never mind having a dual income. And this pushes it onto the children. Can't afford clothes, can't afford food properly, can't afford to take them on days out. That leads to like bullying, that leads to other things. It's more and more difficult. Then they cry about it, the government. They need to have more children. They obviously don't see the real world. That is how disconnected they are from the real world. You don't live in ivory towers. You don't have banquets and 4 or 5 houses. We go to work. We do 40, 50, 60 hours a week to try and make ends meet. But with your ridiculous policies, forever increasing taxes, high energy bills, so on and so on, you are just literally suppressing people. And it's making it tougher and harder. Obviously, they put outrageous things out like that. You want to give people the best start in life. Absolute load of nonsense. I want to help people. Stop raising taxes and reward the hard-working people of this country. Stop putting children into poverty.
What? Not a lot of people are going to like what I've got to say, but whatever. All I've seen recently is councils up and down the UK fucking knocking parts of their town out. It's going to be happening in my town, knocking part of my town away to build homes for asylum seekers. Making old offices and buildings into livable homes for asylum seekers. All I'm saying is help the people of your country before helping people that have stepped foot in the country for all of 5 minutes. Illegally, essentially. You've got your own military, yeah, sleeping on the fucking street. You've got fucking mums and dads sleeping in the backs of their motors with their children. Children going into the fucking care system because their parents can't find an affordable living home. Been kicked out by the fucking landlord for no fucking reason. There is plenty of fucking homeless people in the UK that need a home. And I'm not saying that every homeless person is genuine, because they're not. But everyone deserves a fucking home. Especially the ones that living in this country, and that's all they fucking want. But you're too busy prioritising everyone else. There is going to be wars, there's going to be riots, and do you know what? You wonder why the government is so fucking hated. Because their own people were being fucking neglected and forgotten about. Their needs are not being met, they're not being heard. We're struggling on a day-to-day life just to buy a loaf of fucking bread and to buy some toilet roll to wipe our fucking arseholes with. People in the UK are fucking barely getting by at the minute. But it's alright for the government, isn't it? Because they are walking around with a fucking apple up their arse and fucking wiping their arseholes on money. They don't have worries. They don't need to worry. This doesn't affect them in the slightest. While meanwhile, all of us lot are fucking struggling to even warm up our homes, to make sure we are not cold. A lot of us are fucking having to wrap up in fucking rags on the street. Because it's impossible to get a home because they're being given to fucking people that have been in this country 5 minutes. That's not me saying you shouldn't help these people, but you should prioritise the people of your own country first. Sorry, but it's true. What is wrong with saying that? I watched a video the other day of ex-military man saying that this country has gone to shit and he cannot believe this is the country he fought for because it's not worth fighting for anymore. And I don't fucking blame him for saying that. I went to get some basic essentials.
If a nation can't pay its workers decently and can't look after its elderly properly, it's not prosperous. It's pretending. Once upon a time, Britain set standards. Now it's slipping down the league table while congratulating itself for staying afloat. Blighty hasn't just fallen behind America, it's fallen behind its own reputation. And that, more than anything, is the real poverty. Cheerio, and I will see you all in the next video.